Hello, this is Jacqueline from Jack Knits, and let's learn a fun new stitch today that you can try out on your next knitting project. This is a fun two-color stitch. It produces this really fun like little cross star-like stitch on the front. Very unique, fun stitch to do. I'm going to show you how to do this knitting it flat and also how to do it knitting in the round. So let's take a look. So let's take a look at how to do this stitch first by knitting it flat, then we'll take a look at how to knit it in the round. So this again is a very fun stitch. I'm not even sure what the official name of it is. I call it the two-color cross stitch, but there might be a more official name to it. I'm not sure. So if you know what the another name for it is, or if you've seen the stitch before, you may comment below and we can share that with others. But it's a real fun stitch to do. It is definitely just a one-sided stitch. There's definitely a right side and a wrong side to this fabric, so that's why I also wanted to show you how to do it in the round. So let's take a look how many stitches to cast on. This is just by swatch. You're going to want to cast on an odd number of stitches for this, or basically it's casting on a multiple of 2 plus 3 to get the stitch count correct, but basically an odd number of stitches. So you want to cast on with color A. In this circumstance, my color A is my white, my color B is blue. So cast on with your white, and then the very first round or row, we are going to just jump right into the stitch. So let's do that. I've knitted, of course, several rows of this stitch so you can kind of see what it looks like, but let's get started with knitting the next row. So I'm ready to knit with my color A again, my white. And we are going to start by knitting the very first stitch with one knit stitch. That's what we're going to start the row with color A with a knit stitch. And here we're going to start our knit stitch pattern for this stitch. It's going to start with a slip stitch purlwise with the yarn and back. So just slip it from one needle to the other with your yarn and back. Then we're going to knit the second stitch. Then we're going to do a yarn over. And then we're going to take that slip stitch we did, which is now the third stitch over on our right needle. We're going to pick that up with our left needle and pass it over those last two stitches on our needle. So basically passing over that knit stitch and that yarn over stitch. Okay, so let's see that again. We're going to slip the first stitch, knit the second stitch, yarn over, and now pass that slip stitch, and you can see it's the other color, it's color B sitting there. Pass that slip stitch over those other two stitches. All right, again, slip stitch, knit stitch, yarn over, and pass that stitch over the other two. Slip, knit, yarn over, pass it over. So that is the sequence we're going to do to the end of this row. We're going to end up with 2 stitches left over at the end of the row, and we're going to just knit those 2 when we get there. All right, we've got 2 stitches left on our needle. We're going to knit those 2. Okay, so now on the way back on the wrong side row, we're still working with color A, and it's very, very simple on the way back. We're just going to start and end this row with a knit stitch, and then we're just going to purl all the stitches in between. So purl the whole row except for that first and last stitch, which we will knit. All right, now our last purl stitch and the last stitch we will knit. All right, so now we are done with color A for a bit, and we're going to switch over to color B, which is our blue here. And I'm not cutting the yarn after each color. I'm just going to be carrying that color up the side. So when you switch to color B, just make sure that color A is kind of tucked under color B so it will stay put on the way up the side there. Okay, so with color B, we're going to do really the same thing all the way across, but this time we're going to start by knitting 2 stitches. And the reason for that is that we want our little stitch pattern to kind of just be offset by a stitch, so it's kind of stepped out a little bit. So for color B, you're always going to start with 2 knit stitches instead of 1. And then you're going to go into that little fun stitch sequence again, where we slip the first stitch, knit the second, yarn over, then pass that slip stitch over those 2 stitches, just like we did before. Slip, knit, yarn over, and pass that stitch over both those other 2 stitches. Slip, knit, yarn over, and pass over. All right, let's do that to the end of this row. This time, when we get to the end, we're only going to have 1 stitch left over, which we will knit. All right, this is our last sequence, and we got 1 stitch left over, which we will knit. Okay, so now on the way back, same as before with color A. With color B, we're just going to start and end this wrong side row with a knit stitch and purl all the other stitches. So we'll purl all the way to the end and knit that last stitch. And end with a knit stitch. Okay, and that is your 4-row repeat for this pretty stitch knitted flat. Okay, makes for a really pretty garment. I think it would make a really pretty headband. Again, it does definitely have a right and wrong side, so think about that when you're designing your project. All right, let's take a look now at how to knit this stitch in the round. Let's take a look at how to do the stitch in the round in case you wanted to incorporate it in one of your projects where you're working with circular needles and in the round, so you can kind of hide that back side if you need to. So in the round, again, we're going to cast on an odd number of stitches. I cast it on with my gray color here, which is my color A. My green color is going to be my color B. So I've knitted already a few rounds. I have just completed my 2 rows or rounds of the green color B, and now we're going to do color A. So color A is my green. Again, I've cast it on an odd number of stitches originally. And we are going to jump right into our 2-stitch sequence on color A. Okay, we're not going to start with a knit stitch for color A. We're just jumping right into that sequence, which begins just like we did when we were knitting it flat, with a slip stitch, a knit stitch, a yarn over, and passing that slip stitch over those 2 other stitches. Okay, so the same sequence we did flat, we're just now working in the round. Slipping, knitting, yarn over, and pass that slip stitch over. Slip, knit, yarn over, passing that slip stitch over. Okay, I'm going to do that all the way around this round. I'm going to end up with 1 extra stitch at the end, which we're just going to knit with color A. Okay, so I'll see you in a bit. Okay, I'm nearing the end of this round, so I'm going to do my last little stitch sequence, slipping it, knit, yarn over, and pass that over those 2 stitches, and I've got 1 stitch left, which I'm going to knit with color A. Here's my end of my round. It's always good to have a marker there to indicate the beginning of your round. And now for round 2, I'm still working with color A, my gray here. When we knitted this flat, our wrong side row, when we flipped it, was purling all the way back. Since we're working in the round, we just will need to knit since the right side is facing us. So round 2 is simply just knitting all stitches, again, still with color A. So I'm going to knit around this entire round with color A, and then we'll switch to the green color B. Okay, I'm just finishing up round 2 with color A, and we just knitted, straight knit all the way around the round. Here's my marker to start the beginning of the next round, and now I'm going to switch to color B, which is my green color here. And we are just going to now, again, I'm not cutting my yarn, I'm just carrying the alternating color up the inside. So we're just going to switch to the green by making sure our gray yarn is kind of tucked underneath the green, and we're going to start knitting the green. We're also going to do that same 2-stitch in sequence, but now with the green, since we want to offset the look of that stitch by 1 stitch, we're going to start this round, color B, with 1 knit stitch. So let's knit 1 stitch with color B and do that same sequence of stitch, slipping, knitting, yarn over, passing it over. Same as we did before, slip, knit, yarn over, and pass over. So let's do that all the way to the end of this round. This time we're not going to have any stitches left over, so we'll go do this all the way to the very end. I'll see you in a bit. All right, just finishing up this round with my very last knit sequence, which is that slip, knit, yarn over, and pass over. Now I'm at the beginning or end of my round, and now we're going to do a round 2 with color B, which, you guessed it, is just knit all the way around. Nothing fancy, knitting every stitch all the way around, and that will complete our 4 round repeat for this stitch. So I'll see you at the end of this round. All right, I've completed that last round. So that is how you knit it in the round. We've also took a look at how to do this stitch flat if you wanted to knit a flat project with it. Very fun stitch, very easy to do, makes for a really fun pattern. So I hope you give this a try, and if you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe so you'll receive notifications on future videos all about knitting tips and techniques, fun new stitches, and creative patterns. Thanks for watching, everybody. Happy knitting.